الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب السماوات ورب الأرض رب العالمين، وله الكبرياء في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. الحمد لله الذي بنعمته تتم الصالحات. ربنا لك الحمد حتى ترضى، ولك الحمد إذا رضيت، ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. صلى اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين، وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله أمين على وحيه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, all praise and glory and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything we have. وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نَعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. Anything that is working in your life, any blessing, any success, any achievement is a favor and blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that should make you more grateful and more thankful, both in words and in deeds. You are thankful in words when it comes from the bottom of your heart, appreciation of what Allah has given you. And you do it, and in deeds, by using what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, time, wealth, resources, health, etc., using it fi sabilillah as much as possible. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, I believe that in this series that we started a while ago, we came up or we developed an effective strategy or methodology or approach that helps us understand and solve problems. In our life, that's what we're doing. At all levels, we are facing problems that needs to be solved. So, if you have the right approach, effective, that can help you understanding those problems and solve them. And that's at all levels. The methodology that we learned and we covered can help you at your personal level, family level, community, society, you name it. At all levels, it's the same methodology. You apply it, inshallah, you will find it very effective in understanding and solving problems. It is based on 3 questions. 3 questions. If you address them and you have the proper answers to them, believe me, that will help you tremendously overcoming those problems. 1, what's the standard? What's the reference? We are comparing reality against what? What is your point of reference? Another way to say it, what is supposed to happen? Now there is a reality, that's what happened. Now what is supposed to happen so that we know the gap. We know how wide the gap between where we are and where we're supposed to be. So the first thing is to know what was supposed to happen, or what is your point of reference, or your point of, or your standard, where we should be. Because that can make all the difference in the world. I mean, some student take an exam, get a 60. They can say this is good, at least it's not 0, but 60 out of 100, that's F, that's failure. Because you need to know what's the reference. So you need, people sometimes they have an argument and dispute, and the reason because each one of them has a different reference in mind. So this one say, what happened is success, the other say failure. Why? Because everyone has a different point of reference. Someone say this is okay, the other say that's not okay. Again, everyone, because they have different point of reference. This is right, no, this is wrong. Based on what? I mean, what's the reference and what's the standard? Why this is important? It's important even in a relationship, by the way. Because if we have the same reference, then we can limit our differences. Why? Because we exclude anything that is forbidden, haram, or wrong. We agree that it is wrong. and then we are limiting into my opinion versus your opinion, discussion become very quiet. Because now we are not in the right or wrong. We eliminated whatever is wrong, and we kept it only within the limits. So now, what do you think versus what I think? And that's okay. We can differ. Since we ruled out halal and haram and iman and kufr, but imagine all of these are still on the table. Our differences can become a difference of aqidah, it can be takfir, it can be everything. So we have to, it's very important to have that, the same point of reference. Second question is, how and why we came. By the way, for us as Muslims, the reference, what is our reference? It's Islam. So whatever we are discussing, let's find out what Islam has to say about it. That's our reference. Before we get into my opinion and your opinion, let's find out the limits. Let's find out what Islam has to say about it. So the reference for us is our deen. Second question is how and why we came to this point. Things do not happen overnight. Things, they accumulate, they evolve. If you don't understand how and why you came to this point, you cannot solve that problem. You can't. You don't understand how it happened even. So how and why we came to this point, that's history. That's why history is extremely important. It's important in medicine. Your doctor will ask about medical history. It's critical in Quran. There is a reason why about 1/3 of the Quran is history. And in all these verses, you find the word ibrah, lessons. Take lessons from this. So history is extremely important to understand how and why we came to this point, and to learn lessons so that we don't repeat mistakes. It's extremely important. History. And the third question is what is really going on or what's happening, and that's the diagnosis or reality. Going from symptoms to the root causes. That's the only way you can solve problems. If you have the proper answer to these three questions, then you can handle any situation. What is supposed to happen, what's the point, the standard, how and why we came to this point, and what's really going on. Now that methodology helped us answering the two questions that we started the series with. Two fundamental questions. They have been there for a while. One of them at least was there for a while, and then we added another question. One is why Muslims lagged behind. I don't think that's even disputable yet. Statistics says that we are lagging behind. And recently, and I posted something saying that the economy of the Netherlands is bigger than the economy of all North African countries. Mauritania, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, and Egypt. All of these together, their economy, they produce less than the 17 million people in Netherlands. And the same thing for education system, for scientific research, for you name it. Even though Muslims are not poor, they're not lacking resources. They are actually richer in terms of natural resources and fertile lands than other places. And the second question that we started the series with is why all attempts of reform failed in spite of the sincerity and sacrifices of people. Actually, a lot of attempts of reform, they brought us backwards. They didn't even move us forward. You can just compare, as all of us are aware, compare the level, the quality of education in most Muslim countries today, compare it to the 70s and 60s and 80s. Everybody will tell you the education quality was much better before. That's education, manners of people. There are some statistics, by the way. This is not just subjective statement. Statistics, they'd say manners of people are deteriorating, meaning people are cheating more, they are less honest, and just to tell you, sexual harassment and rate of divorce has skyrocketed in many Muslim countries. And we want to move forward, not backward. So we're trying to fix things, and we find ourselves even losing what we used to have. In the process of this series, we confirmed that the best approach to solve problems is to spend most of your time and effort trying to understand it. Because if you understand it, solution will pop up easily, as we have seen. That's, by the way, that's what Einstein said. He said, when I solve a problem, I spend 90% of my time and effort try to understand it, 10% of the time and effort to solve it. Because the moment you understand it, the solution pops up automatically. Oh, that's what was missing, so that's what we need to do. So understanding, I think this confirmed what we have been discussing so far, confirmed that great wisdom that spend most of your time and effort try to understand the problem, and then once you understand it, more than likely you will be able to solve it. Why this is important, why this approach is important? One, once you understand the problem, solution will pop up. You discover that there was something missing, so that thing missing is needed to happen. That's one. Number two, and that's also as critical and serious, if you don't understand the problem properly, you will waste much more time and effort, and there is a big chance that you're going to make it worse. I told you I was exposed to many cases, families, in parenting or spousal relationship. People, because they were attacking the wrong problem, they make the original problem, they make it worse. Why? Because it was not properly diagnosed. It's like a doctor who get the wrong diagnosis of your case, prescribe you a medicine that will make your health deteriorate. Why? Because the diagnosis was wrong. So we lagged behind. We go back to those two fundamental questions. And all attempts have failed and will fail, by the way. And that's why I'm not fooled by any attempt, and will fail. Don't fool yourself, simply because we did not satisfy those conditions. All those attempts were not built on the proper answer to those three questions. Requirements were not there, attempts will fail. It's like student applying to university. This university has a requirement. You have to have this GPA, you have to have this, you have standard tests, etc. Now the students keep applying, but without the requirement. So they're going to get just rejection. Even if you apply to all the universities or you apply 100 times, as long as you did not meet the requirement, the response will be rejection. Now that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to fix things without the requirements, without the conditions and the tools. So one or more of those requirements were not there. Either proper understanding of the deen was not there, and or proper reading of the history was not there, and or proper diagnosis of the reality was not there. And then we say, let's move forward. You move forward, again, it's going to collapse again as it happened before. We have very superficial understanding of the history and the reality, both. We don't have the proper reading of history, and we have a very superficial and biased understanding of the reality. People are victims of propaganda to the point they have a different reality in their mind. They have a parallel reality, different than actual reality. People, they have wishful thinking. People, they go for denial. There is a problem, they don't want to see it. They just put their heads in the sand, etc. So once you have the requirements, you know where you are, you know how and why you came to this point, you know where you're supposed to be, then you can charter a path that will take you from where you are to the point where you are supposed to be. In the old days, before this GPS, we used to use maps. So sometimes you find yourself lost in the way. So what do? You just park, you open the maps, see where you are, where you went wrong, where you deviated, and then this is the highway, and then this is the path I need to take so that I can go back and resume. Same thing supposed to happen here. And we started with history. And as I said last time, history is critical. You understand history, it can solve a lot of problems. As you're going to see today, there are some shocking information that the majority of Muslims are not even aware of it about our history. So there is a reason why 1/3 of the Quran is qasas. لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in their stories there are lessons. لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. There is a lesson in the stories of such people for those who understand. That's in the end of Surah Yusuf. And of course, Quran is full of this idea of learning lessons. Learning lessons from history, learning lessons from the universe. يقلب الليل والنهار إن في ذلك لعبرة لأولي الأبصار وإن لكم في الأنعام لعبرة. You can learn lessons from even the animals, the biology of animals. وإن لكم في الأنعام لعبرة نسقيكم مما في بطونه أن يقلب الله الليل والنهار إن في ذلك لعبرة لأولي الأبصار. It was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al Imran says, learn from this, all of you, with insight. فَاعْتَبِرُوا يَا أُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ. Not in Surah Al Imran. The surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاعْتَبِرُوا. After giving you a story, learn from this, all of you, with insight. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, there truly is a lesson in this for all with eyes to see. So it gives you a story or a scene, and then tells you there are lessons for those with eyes to see. It is Allah who sends water down from the sky, and with it revives the earth when it is dead. There truly is a sign in this for people who listen, etc. So go and Google the word Quran, Ibra, in Quran or lessons, and you'll get so many verses that is inviting us to learn from history, learn from stories, etc. فَاعْتَبِرُوا يَا أُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ. Now, when we started with history, we reached what I believe is a very important conclusion, very fundamental conclusion. It's very shocking, but we'd better accept it, and the sooner the better, because we're going nowhere with denial or without accepting it. We came to the conclusion that Muslim history, Muslim reality, our reality now, conditions, Muslim understanding of the deen, Muslim mind, Muslim personality, all of this were shaped by two events that took place 13 centuries ago. And they were never addressed properly, they were never understood properly, and never fixed. Two events can explain all the history, explain all the reality, and what's going on now. One, legitimizing dictatorship, شرعنة حكم المتغلب, making it legitimate, that anybody who imposed themselves on us becomes legitimate. شرعنة المتغلب, and we discussed in details why people came up with this and what were the damage. Just look at all the Muslim world now. Most Muslim countries nowadays, they are governed by dictatorship with people consent, and people are happy with it. Where this is coming from? That's where it's coming from. It's old, and there is a fiqh behind it. Centuries, we were told that as long there is stability, aman, and istiqrar, stability, then whoever is ruling is legitimate. Now, we don't have to become citizen. We can be subjects. We can be ra'iyah. We can be subject. We can give our rights, give up our rights, our freedom, our dignity. We can give up anything. We just, for what? For stability. And the second event was freezing ijtihad. People came at a certain point and they said, you know what, there is no more need for thinking, for ijtihad. We have enough body of knowledge of fiqh and seerah and etc. And therefore, moving forward, just take it easy. You don't need to use this. Just read those books, memorize them, and later we were told that even you shouldn't be reading those books. A sheikh will read them for you. And you attend the halaqah given by sheikh who is memorizing books that were written for no more ijtihad. Stopped completely. And freezing. So what was the result? We inherited a frozen deen. A deen that was twisted. Why it was twisted? Because of the first factor. Dictatorship. Freezing deen was very suitable for dictators. They loved it. They don't want the deen that is vibrant, that motivates people. They want deen that will keep people asleep. So what happened to the deen? There are some elements in the deen that are convenient for the dictator. These were blown out of proportion. Fiqh, ibadat, ghusl, tahara, wudu. Take it, it's up. Talaq, zawaj, all of this, all the personal fiqh were given green light and maybe was even sponsored. Anything about justice, political principles in Islam, leadership by consent, that was suppressed completely. Imam Malik was persecuted, but many people don't know that all the four madhahib, imams of madhahib, all of them were jailed and tortured and persecuted and beaten, all four. Abu Hanifa, he refused to be appointed as a judge. Rafad al-Qada. He was put in jail and tortured, and there is a question whether he was poisoned in jail. One. Imam Malik, he gave a fatwa that is implicit, not even explicit, about this leadership, forced leadership. He said that طلاق الإكراه لا يجوز. What he meant is the bay'at al-ikrah, that for someone to accept, or a leader to impose himself on you, but he did not dare to say it, so he gave a fatwa that talaq al-ikrah, that people cannot be divorced, cannot be forced to divorce. But the Khalifa understood, you mean that people cannot make bay'ah to me by force? So Imam Malik was put in jail and beaten. That will tell you what happened when you have a dictatorship, what happens to the deen itself. And everybody who dared to come up with an opinion that is not suitable for the Khalifa, for the dictator, was suppressed, was persecuted and tortured. That's the deen that we inherited. Is it limited only to scholars? I told you about what happened to scholars. I can tell you more cases. Nasa'i, one of the scholar of hadith, 6 Sihah, Nasa'i, was beaten till death. So that's the rousy history that we were told about it. That we are, even the great scientists that we are proud of, when we talk about Razi and Ibn Sina, etc., all, almost with no exceptions, were labeled kafir, takfir. All. And many of them were beaten and persecuted. Why? Dictators don't want people to think. There is no room for creative thinking, for critical thinking. That's not allowed. So you have scholars, you can't think outside the box. There is a box. That's for the deen. How about science? Same. Both those official scholars, ulama sultan, they don't like science. Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, whose fiqh is so prevalent nowadays, he did not leave one Muslim scientist without calling him kafir. None. All of them. Ibn Hayyan, the chemist, Ibn Sina, the physicians, all. Why? This one is dealing with chemistry. That's magic. So that's kafir. And anybody who dares just to say something different. Now, why Ahmad ibn Hanbal was jailed and tortured? Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he had the fatwa different than the opinion of the Khalifa. Ma'mun wanted him to say something about Khalq al-Quran. He had a different opinion, put in jail. and tortured. So that's what happened. That's what we inherited. Because if you're gonna still continue building that history was all great and drowsy, and the deen reached us intact, good luck. Keep building on this, nothing will work. Because both of these foundations are very shaky. That's not true. That's the history, and that's how the deen reached us. Our understanding of the deen, the current understanding of the deen, went through this tunnel of 13th century of dictatorship. So twisted, manipulated, mutilated, take some elements, blow them out of proportion, take other elements, marginalize them, and take this is Islam. And we think we are still under the impression that what we received was the intact understanding of the deen. Because of this, because of these two major factors, we ended up in that pendulum between dictatorship and chaos. So we accept dictatorship for a while until we cannot take it anymore. So once we see some weakness, people will revolt. When they revolt, they go into chaos. That's natural. Any dictatorship, because everything is in his hand, when he's toppled, there is a chaos. And we have seen it recently. We've seen it in Iraq, we have seen it in Libya, etc. Once the dictator is removed, the country enters into chaos. Because everything was in his hand. There was no institutions. And when people find themselves in chaos, what they do? They look for another dictator to settle things down. And when that dictator comes, we accept them and we welcome them. That has been the cycle for 13th century, and it's continuing until this point. Why? Because we did not get rid of that idea that dictatorship is not legitimate, and every price is worth to get rid of it. Why? Because it is the reason of all our problems, or one of the main reasons of stagnation and backwardness. Why? Because dictatorship means corruption. Make no mistake about it. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. These are laws, rules, they apply to everybody. Dictatorship means corruption. Corruption meaning no competition, no transparency, no equal opportunity, economy will go down and everything goes down. That's a chain reaction. You can't accept the beginning and say, I can stop it later on. You cannot stop it. Chain reaction starts, you accept dictatorship, wait for corruption, because that's automatic. You accept corruption, then everything will deteriorate in this society, including the manners of people. شعوب المقموعة تفسد أخلاقهم. Ibn Khaldun says. Oppressed people, their manners deteriorate. And the Kawakibi wrote a booklet about what happened as a result of dictatorship called Tabaya al-Istibdad. So majority of Muslim countries nowadays are ruled by dictatorship, either explicit or implicit. In some countries there is a rigged election or engineered election. There is an election that is engineered, so the outcome is decided from the beginning, and then we have seen this time and again. Just look at the map and look at what happened in every election. It's either no election or rigged or engineered. So either explicit dictatorship or fake democracy, and unfortunately the people are okay with it. And that's the main difference between Muslim societies and advanced nations. Advanced nation, they came to the point that this is not tolerated. Couple of times the South Korean leadership, couple of times, one time there was an accusation of corruption, they were removed and put in jail. Even though she was elected she was very popular, because she's the daughter of one of the founders of South Korea. But corruption, people took to the street, you need to go. She begged them, she apologized, she cried, nothing. And then more recently, somebody did something unconstitutional. It's a step toward dictatorship. Again, people came to the streets, you need to go. And you cannot fix it. You can. Why? Because these people, they are trained and raised and educated that this corruption and dictatorship are not accepted. Our people are trained and educated that corruption and dictatorship are okay. You just need to adjust yourself with it. You just need to accommodate with it. So 13 centuries old cycle, we are yet to break it, unfortunately. And that's why we ended up in this state of backwardness compared to the rest of the world. Even in the few times that we start to move in the right direction, there was some promising move toward reform. Some of them old, some of them recent. Unfortunately, they were aborted. I just recently published something that mentioning that in Egypt and Syria, in the 20s of the last centuries, so 1 century ago, things were moving in the right direction. There was much more freedom than now. The judiciary was really independent, and there's so many good elements there. So both countries were heading in the right direction. Syria was aborted in 49, Egypt in 52. Coup d'etat, military rule, and then all of this was aborted and suppressed. Recently, in other countries like Pakistan, any attempt of reform to take the power out of the military or the small group, etc., it's always ended up aborted, unfortunately. So the solution, Muslims should reject this duality, that if it's not dictatorship, then chaos. And if you have to choose between the two, then dictatorship becomes great, becomes the better option. This is something that we really have to change our mind and delegitimize dictatorship. Delegitimize dictatorship and pay whatever price to get rid of it once and for all. Requires a surgery, requires whatever price, whatever that people have to pay and sacrifices, they should do it so that we get rid of this and we break that cycle. وَتُوبُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب إليه. نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. My dear respected brother and sister in Islam, again, that I hope that this can motivate us or inspire us to do our homework and to start rereading our history, rediscovering our deen, take a different look at our reality, because that superficial understanding of the reality, that superficial reading of history, that the version of Islam that we inherited, our current understanding of Islam, are not leading us anywhere. And there is no point of trying again, because remember, insanity is defined as doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And we are not people who we don't have insanity, and we should smarter than that. Enough repeating the same attempts the same way and expecting different results. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا توفنا وانت راض عنا واختم بالصالحات أعمالنا واجعل خير أعمالنا خواتمها وخير أيامنا يوم نلقاك. ربنا ارحم والدينا كما ربونا صغارا وارحم موتانا وجميع موتى المسلمين. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. صلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر والله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. هيا على الصلاة هيا على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر والله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
استووا استقم الصادر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. الحمد لله فاطر السماوات والأرض، جاعل الملائكة رسلا أولي أجنحة مثنى وثلاث ورباع، يزيد في الخلق ما يشاء، إن الله على كل شيء قدير. ما يفتح الله للناس من رحمة فلا ممسك لها، وما يمسك فلا مرسل له من بعده، وهو العزيز الحكيم. يا أيها الناس اذكروا نعمة الله عليكم، هل من خالق غير الله يرزقكم من السماء والأرض؟ لا إله إلا هو، فأنى تؤفكون. وإن يكذبوك فقد كذبت رسل من قبلك، وإلى الله ترجع الأمور.